Well, hello and welcome to the Informed Traveler Podcast, a weekly travel podcast where our goal is to help you become a more informed traveler. And I'm your host, Randy Sharman. You know, we just returned a few days ago from a fabulous 4-day tour of the Lake Tahoe Loop in Nevada, which included stops in Reno, Carson City, the capital of Nevada, and Virginia City. So coming up on this week's podcast, we've got 3 interviews for you from representatives in all 3 of those areas, Reno, Carson City, and Virginia City. So our tour started by flying into Reno, known as the biggest little city in the world, and staying 2 nights at the Renaissance Hotel downtown Reno. And it's perfectly located right along the Truckee River with easy access to the beautiful Reno River Walk that offers a wide variety of boutiques, galleries, specialty retailers. There's bars, bistros. It's also where you'll find many different dining options ranging from cozy little coffee houses to riverside grills. If you've been to Reno, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And let me tell you, this time of year with all the leaves turning color, it is absolutely gorgeous. And while we were there, we got the chance to visit with Ben McDonald. He's the Senior Director of Communications and Public Affairs for Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority, and Art Jimenez, Executive Director of Tourism with Visit Reno Tahoe, to learn more about the area. And so we'll start out this week's podcast with that conversation. Thank you, gentlemen, for doing this.
Thank you so much for having us. Great to have you in Northern Nevada.
And that's the voice of Ben McDonald.
Welcome to our great region, and we hope you have a great time while you're here, Randy.
And that's the voice of Art Jimenez. So here we are sitting on a beautiful day in Reno, Nevada. I've got a whole list of places to visit and see. If I'm here for 3 or 4 days, where do I start? Is it a good idea to stay in the downtown district so you can kind of walk around, or who wants to answer that?
I think there's a lot of different places you can stay, and the nice thing about this area of Reno is that everything's 10 to 15 minutes away. So almost all of our major resort hotels are 10 minutes from the airport. Whether you're downtown at the Row or staying at the Renaissance near downtown and Midtown, we've got some other great resorts that you've never heard of before because they're not chains. They're family-owned. Grand Sierra Resort, Peppermill, Atlantis. You know, these are names that you're not going to recognize, but these are large resorts with meeting space, full-service spas, pools, casinos, of course, multiple restaurants, 7 or 8 restaurants at these places, and some of them have a great deal of shopping and entertainment as well. So really, no matter where you're at in the city area around Reno and Sparks, you're going to find what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. What's the logo, the sign? The Reno is the
biggest little city in the world, and we're proud of that. You know, it's a hometown feel. We have, as Ben mentioned, we have Las Vegas style type of casinos and entertainment, but we're much smaller. You know, we're a 4-season destination. We're very fortunate and blessed to have Lake Tahoe, anywhere from 35 to 50 minutes away from Reno. Half an hour out of Reno, we've got Virginia City, where silver was found back in the 1850s, and then Carson City, and the list goes on and on and on with all the historical cities surrounding Reno.
Getting back to the biggest little city in the world, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it has a good vibe to it, unlike Las Vegas. It's like you can do all the gaming and things like that, but it seems to be a little more laid back, a little quieter, that type of thing.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Las Vegas. I moved up here about 20 years ago, and this is definitely more my vibe. You have all the accoutrements of a large city, but everything else is so accessible as well. I think we're much friendlier than a lot of destinations just because people are happy here. As Art mentioned, the 4 seasons, you get a lot of variety. Nothing is ever stale around here. You've got a beautiful river. It's all snow melt, the Truckee River, coming right through the heart of downtown Reno. Really makes the place walkable. And then also the outdoors are, you know, a few blocks away from our major entertainment district. So you can be on the top of a hill and in 15 minutes be right in the heart of downtown having a great lunch under the sun right along the river.
Well, let's talk about that river and the river walk. It wasn't built overnight, so how did it become to what it is now?
So, I mean, history will take you back that the river was used to move freight and cargo back in the 1800s. And today, you know, as Ben mentioned, the river starts at Lake Tahoe, and the city has grown around it with dining establishments and resorts and hotels. But talk a little bit about where it comes from, Lake Tahoe. I mean, Lake Tahoe is the largest alpine lake in North America. The water, it sits at 6,200 feet elevation, so it's pretty high. And it's 22 miles long, 12 miles wide. Takes you about 2.5 hours to drive all the way around, which is a beautiful drive. It could be in spring, summer, or fall, or winter. Just a beautiful lake, and again, we're fortunate to be so close to it.
Yeah, absolutely. The river walk itself, though, it's beautiful. We were walking it last night. There's restaurants, there's pubs, places you can go. There's just again going back to that vibe of it's just very laid back, really nice, and quite quaint.
Yeah, there's a thing called blue mind theory. It was in a book many years ago, and it's kind of been trending on TikTok and stuff again. And just being by a body of water, whether it's a large river or a lake, the ocean especially, just gives you a sense of comfort and relaxation. Something in our human nature desires to be around water, and it really does add to that vibe. Anytime you're in any city, especially here in Reno and Sparks, where you can hear the sounds of the flowing river while you're going on about your day, exploring the city, it really makes a big difference, and it's also very family friendly. In the summertime, you can go swimming, kayaking, right along that river walk. If you go up and jump in a tube 4 miles outside of the city, you end up in downtown after a couple hours. So the river walk started out many years ago, 20-30 years ago, as kind of an eyesore in the city. The city wasn't maintaining it, and they said, man, we have this great opportunity, we have this great natural resource, let's really make it something big. So now you have Wingfield Park. They're getting ready to redo the bridges on Arlington and make it really more of an entertainment zone. There's lots of special events, especially during July. Art Town, where they do 400 events around town focused on art. A lot of those are centered around the river and right in downtown, right on that river walk. So it's a gathering place, it's a place for families, it's a place for entertainment and food. Just a great resource for us. We're really lucky to have it.
Well, yeah, and that was my next thing, talking about the art, because there's murals around the downtown area. You have the Nevada Museum of Art, but it seems to me the whole downtown district is one big art museum.
The Nevada Museum of Art is the only fully accredited museum in Nevada. And then not too far from there is the National Automobile Museum, which is one of the top 5 automobile museums in the United States. But we have a lot of murals. We have mural tours. You can take a pedicab and have somebody whisk you around town and give you a tour of that, or you do a walking tour of all the mural tours. And we embrace that. A lot of the great artists are painting their beautiful pictures on the side of our buildings. We also operate 4 facilities in the Reno area, with the Convention Center, the Reno Livestock Event Center, the National Bowling Stadium, and the Reno Event Center. And we've been working with local artists to come in and put up some beautiful, massive 30-foot by 30-foot murals inside of our buildings. So definitely a lot of art.
Well, yeah, for sure. One piece I have to ask you about, and it's in the center area by the river walk, is the whales. So who wants to this is not a whale watching area, I'll have to say that.
No whales in Lake Tahoe, but I do appreciate, Randy, how you started with art on the art discussion, so that was perfect. So the space whale comes from Burning Man. Burning Man, we are the gateway to Burning Man here in Reno. It's about 2.5 hours away on the Black Rock Desert. Out on the playa, people bring large art installations, hundreds of feet tall, some of them, and sculptures, buildings that they end up burning that people walk through for the week. And so the space whale was a large art piece designed specifically for Burning Man, and the city has done a really good job. The city of Reno spends 2% of their budget on arts and culture.
Wow.
They are mandated to do that now. And they use some of that money to purchase the space whale, put it in the city plaza, which is now Believe Plaza, and the space whale's been a stalwart in that area right along the river walk for about 6 years now. So it's really an effort by the city, certainly us with the Visitors Bureau Reno Tahoe, to integrate art into the city and make sure that not just for visitors but for residents as well. Anytime you're out and about in your own town, seeing the art and seeing how it shapes people's perspectives and gets discussion going, really speaks to who is here, what's important to us, and it gives us a little bit more personality and makes you feel like you're living in a destination that cares.
Yeah, for sure. And with the art, you have the neon line district. Tell me about that.
So there's a group called the Jacobs Group, and they purchased an old hotel and remodeled it, spent hundreds of millions of dollars, the J Resort, and they've also purchased 20 blocks or so of dilapidated buildings, and they've created housing for employees and for people in need, but they've brought in a lot of old neon from the city from last century and lined the streets. And they've also purchased a lot of Burning Man artwork that lines the street as well. They have an outdoor concert area called the Glow Plaza, and they're really going to be instrumental in reshaping downtown here in the immediate future.
Nice. Let's talk now about the public market. I'm guessing it's not your average, ordinary, everyday public market.
No. It's a very large, and I wouldn't even call it a food hall.
Yeah.
It's about 24 different eateries. Nothing like we've seen here in the Reno area ever. It's an old strip mall, but right on the south side of Midtown, which is a really booming part of town. New businesses, restaurants, retail, shopping, and kind of leading into that South Reno area where we're just starting some other developments around hotels and entertainment. So the public market is a great place. Go check it out. You can spend a couple hours there, get a little bite from each place. Definitely the most eclectic mix of food, cuisine that you're going to find anywhere in town.
Well, there's no shortage of that, that's for sure. So, yeah, like, are there... imagine whatever kind of food you can get, but is there sort of special local foods that you gotta try, or what would be like the local flavor?
So I've been here 7 years, and I spent my life in Las Vegas, which is phenomenal for food. But my wife and I spent 3 years without having dinner in a chain restaurant. There's so many hidden gems and old buildings and old structures in Reno that are just wonderful food. I have an affinity towards sushi, and being that we're anywhere from 3.5 to 4 hours away from the Bay Area, our sushi restaurants are really good here. Also Basque food. We have a Basque influence here dating back to the 1800s, and there's a couple of really good restaurants. Louis Basque Corner downtown, phenomenal family style seating, and you have to try the pecan punches while you're there.
And well, okay, now let's talk just logistics of getting here. The airport is amazing. I love it. It's really easy to follow, and I granted it's not LAX or Dallas Fort Worth or anything like that, but it's very easy to maneuver. Tell me about the development that's going on to get more people here.
Yeah, so the airport just started a $1 billion project over the next 8 years. We're about 2 years into it. It was a 10-year plan. They're putting in new terminals, new parking, a new access road to the airport, and the objective is to make it manageable for people. Right now this is probably one of the easiest airports in the United States to get in and out of, but the population is growing. And those terminals are 40 years old, and it is time to start renovating that. But it's not going to take away from, first of all, the customer service aspect of this region is far and away above most tourism destinations that you find, because the people really care about your experience here, and that starts at the airport, and they know it. So new terminals, new ticketing, expanded gates. There'll be new air service. It'll probably take you 2 flights to get here from Canada, but it'll be well worth it, and getting even better as far as accommodating travel in the future.
Well, even you were talking, it's only 3.5 hours from the Bay Area, so if you want to extend a trip from the West Coast, or if you're going to Las Vegas, why not come up to Reno for a couple days?
So a lot of folks and itineraries that we prepare for tour operators, you can actually land into San Francisco, go to Napa, spend some time in San Francisco, make your way to Reno, and this could be your hub. It could be your hub to Virginia City, 30 minutes from Reno, Carson City, Genoa. Nevada's first settlement is 40 minutes from Reno. We're only a couple hours away, 2.5 hours to Mammoth, right? And Yosemite. You can take the 395, make your way to California, and really make a nice loop of California, Nevada, Reno, and into our historic cities as well.
Well, and the history here is amazing, I think. And I'm a big history buff, so there's lots of stories and just lots of. If you sit down with some of the local people that have been here forever, they could tell you stories all day.
I think probably one of them that's a favorite one to hear and for me to tell is Mark Twain. Mark Twain came out here in the 1850s, and he was a writer in Virginia City, where they were starting to find silver. And his name was Samuel Clemens, but the old story goes that he was also a riverboat captain on the Mississippi. And the way you would mark the depth of the water on the Mississippi, you would take a rod into the water and you would mark Twain. So he took the name as a pseudonym for him to start writing. And he wrote a lot about Nevada. He coined the zephyrs, the zephyr winds. Really loved Lake Tahoe. Said that if you wanted to breathe like the angels breathe, go to Lake Tahoe.
Well, and you got the weather on your side. I don't. Is there a bad time to come to Reno, or it's always a good time to come, right?
It's always a good time to come. They say if you don't like the weather in Reno, just wait 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So things move very quickly here. Coming down from the mountain, the winds will blow a storm out of here pretty quickly, but we do get snow. Certainly not as much as you get up in Calgary, but the Sierra is always packed with snow in the wintertime. The season's a little later now, but we have the largest concentration of ski resorts in North America, but also 300 sunny days a year. So it's a great mix.
You gotta like it. Okay, what have I missed? Anything you want to add?
Oh boy. It's a 4-season destination, and sometimes you get all 4 seasons in one day. Okay, but the summers are beautiful, no humidity, highs in the 90s. But at night it gets cool.
Mm-hmm.
It gets cool at night, but a little sweater, and that's what's nice about that as well. It's a small destination. We're seeing a lot of growth. Ben mentioned this a little bit ago, but we have an industrial complex here in northern Nevada that houses Panasonic and Tesla. There's a partnership to build all the batteries for all the Tesla vehicles. Plus, they're going to be building the Tesla semi-trucks there. Walmart is there. Google is there. The Apple Cloud is right near there for Apple. We have an Apple distribution center. So we've become a really high-tech distribution type of city. We have I-80 running through here that goes from San Francisco to New York. So it's a natural to get all of that freight out pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Any last tips?
Yeah, I would say, I think Art might have buried the lead on the sushi. It's all you can eat sushi. All you can eat, right? You're talking like $30 for dinner and $18 for lunch. It's incredible. You won't find that anyplace else. No, and, as far as the weather, I think Art hit it on the head, but also this is a place where at times you can ski in the morning and golf in the afternoon, and there's just not a lot of places that you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, very typical in March and April. So very family friendly. Super friendly place. I love it here. I don't ever want to leave. That's why I do what I do. We're just very fortunate to be here, and hope your listeners come on down and check us out here in Reno Tahoe.
For sure. Well, thank you for inviting us. Thank you for having us. Art Jimenez, Executive Director of Tourism for Reno Tahoe, and Ben McDonald. He's the Senior Director of Communications and Public Affairs for Reno Tahoe Convention and Visitors Authority. Go to their website. It's a good website. Visit renotahoe.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Randy.
Our second stop while driving the Lake Tahoe Loop in Nevada was the capital of Nevada, Carson City, a city that prides itself on preserving and celebrating its past. It's also where I sat down with Lydia Beck, marketing and PR manager with Visit Carson City, to find out more about the colorful past of Carson City, the historic buildings, and the area around Carson City where it offers many different hiking and outdoor activities. So here's that chat for you now. This is a beautiful day. We should just sort of, tell people where we're sitting. We're sitting on a park bench in front of Mark Twain's house.
Yes, absolutely. He moved here with his brother, actually, Orion Clemens, way back when. And they lived in this home while he spent his time here before he moved up to Virginia City writing for the Territorial Enterprise.
Nice. And now it's a law office.
It is. It is. It looks a little different from when he lived here, but it's still a beautiful area.
And this is part of like a walking tour. Like there's so many, I'm gathering, historic homes in this area, right?
There is. Actually, we have one of the most preserved Victorian West Sides, Victorian homes in one area on the west side of the United States. So it is called our Historic West Side District for that reason. And we have some beautifully preserved homes, and we've created a walking trail and audio tour called the Kit Carson Trail. Mm-hmm. So it's totally free to grab a map at the visitor center or download it online. And then just use our website as the audio tour. So it's one of our most popular attractions, and people love going through our west side because for the listeners, you can't see it, but we're sitting under towering cottonwood trees, and in the summer and especially in the fall when those colors change, it's pretty magical.
It does look pretty magical because you can see the colors changing. Do people live in the homes? Are they preserved that way that people still live there? And do they mind people walking around their neighborhood all the time?
I think people love and they're very proud of the homes that they live in. But yes, almost all of the homes are lived in. We have a very special ghost walking tour that we do one time a year where some of the homeowners open their homes to the public and let the tours walk through. So the Carson City Ghost Walk puts that on. It's actually happening on October 19th. So it happens when all the fall colors are here, and it's so much fun. It's a whole theatrical experience, and getting to go inside the homes in the governor's mansion, which normally you don't get to go into, is a really special experience. So on special occasions, yes, but most of the time they are resided in, and so we don't get to go experience them. So we're kind of looking from the outside, but they're so unique and beautiful that it's great to just walk and wonder.
I guess if you're living in these homes, it just comes with the territory, right?
Yeah,
you just
absolutely
have to expect it.
Yes, it sure does. You know, when you live in a historic district, you preserve those houses for people to visually see it. So I think they're used to that, and people are very welcoming and proud.
Nice. Okay, let's talk about Carson City in general now, just the historical background of it, and some intricate little things that people might not know about Carson City.
Sure, absolutely. So, of course, we're Nevada's capital. A lot of people think Vegas, but our tiny little city of 58,000 people is the capital of Nevada. It has a lot of history. It was the founder of Carson City is known as Abe Curry. So you'll see Curry Street and a lot of his name around. His home is actually on the Kit Carson Trail, and you'll see that a lot of these buildings, even the one right next to us, is made of sandstone blocks. And so he was actually the first warden of the Nevada State Prison, and so that's actually a historical landmark that you can tour here now in Carson City on the east side of town, and so those tours are very popular. And there was a quarry there, and so they call it kind of Abe's Quarry, and he took a lot of those sandstone blocks, built his own house. He built the Capitol with them. He built some of these other homes on the historic west side. And so we have a rich history here. And of course, Nevada's really kind of got ratified as a state in 1864 to help push through the 13th Amendment to abolish slavery. And so we actually have St. Pete's Episcopal Church, which is right 2 blocks down the road, and that's actually where they signed that bill to ratify the 13th Amendment in Nevada. And so a lot of rich history, but the Capitol, of course, is a big part of that.
Now, it's not a huge city, so it's easy to get around, right? Easy to navigate. Obviously, if you have a car, it really helps, but it's not a problem navigating around here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend having a car here in Carson City and in northern Nevada in general. We don't have a very lucrative bus system, so if you are visiting, I would keep that in mind. But having a car really gets you to explore. So even though we only have 58,000 people, our actual land coverage that we have here is quite big. So our downtown area and this historic west side area is probably one of the most popular places for people to be because the Capitol is down here. It's very walkable, and we have quite a few museums like the Nevada State Museum, the Railroad Museum. Those are about a mile apart. We also have the Stewart Indian School, which is about a 10-minute drive from where we are now. And that is an incredible part of American history that not many people know about. And so it was an Indian boarding school that operated here in Carson City from 1890 to 1980. In the 30s and 40s, it became a place that they wanted to go to instead of they were forced to. So it has a dark history, but what they've done in that museum to tell the story of what happened but celebrate what the tribes are doing now is a really beautiful experience. And that campus is stunning. There's 80 buildings left that were built by the Hopi Masons and the students, and they're beautiful stone buildings. So it's free to go to the museum Monday through Friday, and so I always recommend people go there and really learn a unique history here in Carson City. So yeah, there's so much to do, kind of spread out across the city. I'd say a lot happens really here in the downtown corridor.
What about the surrounding area? We're kind of doing the Lake Tahoe Loop.
Yes.
So I imagine there's a beautiful sparkling lake not too far away.
Yeah, absolutely. My executive director always likes to remind people that 6.2% of the lake is actually in Carson City. So we actually have the longest amount of shoreline of any town that surrounds Lake Tahoe, but it's kind of in our rural area of Carson City, but it's only a 25-minute drive from downtown, and so we have some beautiful shoreline on that east shore. That's where you really see those big boulders and
nice.
turquoise waters that you're really used to seeing. It takes a little bit of hiking to get down on this side, but man, is it stunning. So the Lake Tahoe Loop is one of my favorite road trips to do, and then coming here through Carson City, you're going to go south into Carson Valley as well, which is our neighbors to the south, just 20 minutes from here. And the oldest settlement in Nevada, Genoa, is there as well. So, and the oldest bar in Nevada. So if you love to have a beer, it's one of the coolest places to grab one. So, yeah, the Lake Tahoe Loop really gets you to see a great part and beautiful part of northern Nevada.
Well, you're mentioning having a beer somewhere. That kind of ties in with food. We always like to talk about food here. Is there some special places that people should check out?
I think people are always really shocked by how great the food is here in Carson City. We had a lot of people that come down from the lake to come experience some of the food here. You can't really go wrong with anything downtown, to be honest. One of our more unique hidden gem places is actually inside Cactus Jack's casino, and it's called TJ's Corner Cafe. So TJ is from Indonesia originally, and his partner is American, and they have fused the two together into a little diner experience. And so you authentic, wonderful Indonesian food and curries, and then Chuck, his partner, is frying up burgers, some of the best burgers in the city. So it's a really fun experience, and we love to talk about them just because it's one of the more unique ones. We have great food for Thai food as well, called the Basil. The Great Basin Brewery downtown and the Fox are great for staples. They both brew their own beer. Shoe Tree Brewing on the north side of town has won national awards for their beer, which is right next to the hot springs, and Sassafras. So those three share a parking lot, and we like to call that the Carson City Triathlon. So you can get a beer, eat at Shoe Tree, and soak in the hot springs all in one day. We've got a t-shirt for you at the visitor center. So there's really great food. Some of the places open today, one is Red's 395 Grill, and the ambiance there is one of a kind. They have historic carriages hanging from the ceilings and a steamroller inside of the building, and the outside of the building is unique in itself, and the barbecue is great.
Nice.
So there's so much to mention. Piazza is a wonderful place. Eve's Eatery is amazing for breakfast, and I could go on and on. But we've got almost anything down here is really great.
Nice. You mentioned the Ghost Walk in October 19th. What are some of the other events that people can maybe look at and come visit down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the key major events that we have here in Carson City is called the Nevada Day Celebration and Nevada Day Weekend. So we have one of the largest statehood celebrations in the country, and we put on a heck of a parade. And so about 14,000, anywhere from like 12 to 14,000 people come downtown, and we have a hot air balloon launch that launches from the middle of downtown Carson Street, which is our main street, which happens in front of the Capitol and south. I think it's one of the most unique balloon launches in the country. And then we have a massive parade that's sometimes anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, with just people from all over the country coming and celebrating Nevada statehood. And there's a beard contest and a rock drilling world championships. There's like something for everyone. So that's a big one. That happens the weekend before Halloween. So coming up soon, the 26th is the big parade day. Otherwise, the Carson City Ghost Walk is the big one, and then we have the V&T Railway train. So if you're coming in the spring, that actually will take you from Carson City up to Virginia City, and then you can get out, spend a few hours, and then come back down to Carson City. And so that starts in Mother's Day weekend usually. We have a big event next October that continues called Mark Twain Days, so very fitting in front of this house. This is actually the next year will be the third annual event. So it's a newer event, but it has been quite popular. And so we are really celebrating Mark Twain's time here, and we partnered with Virginia City as well. They actually opened the Territorial Enterprise Building for the first time in 10 years, and they're going to continue to do that. So you can actually see where he not only lived, but where he worked up there.
Yeah.
So those are some of our major ones, in addition to, the taste of downtown, and we've got Brewfest, and there's a little bit of something for everyone.
Yeah, well, it all sounds like a lot of fun. We're going to do the walking tour through this historic neighborhood. Any other tips, advice, things that or something we might have missed?
No, I think, visit CarsonCity.com is a great resource. We've put together really thoughtful, curated itineraries for people, whether they're looking for outdoors or they're looking for historical tours. I think one thing that we might want to mention is our proximity to trails. 5 minutes from here, you can go be at the Kings Canyon Waterfall Trailhead.
Oh, nice.
It's only a 0.4 mile hike to a 25-foot cascading waterfall in one of those stunning areas and historic areas of Carson City where they used to bring down the timber from Lake Tahoe, which eventually went up to Virginia City for the mines. So I would say our proximity to the outdoors and our trails here, over 100 miles of trails that are easily accessible, is one of the reasons people love to come for the history, but also enjoy the outdoors. We have a lot of biking events. Mountain biking is very popular here. So we're not just, history is a great core route to come here, but a lot of people use us as the proximity for Northern Nevada because 30 minutes and you're in the middle, you're anywhere that you would want to be. We're kind of right in the middle of the Lake Tahoe Loop, which makes it a nice place to stay and still be able to go explore.
Well, the hike you mentioned is my kind of hike, really short.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of bang for your buck. So we always recommend the Kings Canyon Waterfall, and we actually have a brand new trail that's right in that area called the Capped Tahoe Trail, which actually it's our first single track connection up to Lake Tahoe, which people love to mountain bike and hike. It's a long one, so if you start at the steps of the Capitol and take that up, it's about 16 miles up to Tahoe. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart, but at the same time, it's incredible because it will connect to the Tahoe Rim Trail, to the Pacific Crest Trail, and then up to Canada or Mexico. So you can actually make that hike if you dare do so.
Awesome. Well, we can hear the church bells, so
maybe
that's time to go. Lydia Beck is the marketing and PR manager with Visit Carson City. Lots of info on their website, visitcarsoncity.com. Thank you so much, Lydia. It was so much fun.
Thank you so much.
Stop number 3 on our 4-day excursion driving the Lake Tahoe Loop in Nevada involved exploring the historic town of Virginia City. And when I say historic, it is truly the case. The town is full of historic buildings and colorful historic characters and stories to go with them. Founded on the boom of the silver mines back in the 1800s, it is now a mecca for tourists looking to literally travel back into time. And there is no better person to meet up with to learn about Virginia City's colorful past than Todd Tuttle. He is Virginia City's tourism director. So here is the story of Virginia City and our conversation with Todd. We are sitting at where are we sitting? With the Cider House at Canvas Cafe, nice little cafe, and just to my broadcast left here is the main street of Virginia City. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what goes on in the main street, and we'll talk a little about the story of Virginia City.
Well, the main street coming through town, of course, has been here from the beginning, all the way from when they were hauling ore in and out, and also bringing in the quick sets that were coming from the Sierra Nevadas. It's referred to as C Street, and on this street is where you'll find a lot of the jewelry stores, you'll find the museums, you'll find the saloons that Virginia City's famous for. You'll have a lot of those attractions to visit, whether it's a mine or whether it's a carriage ride. There's all kinds of fun, exciting things that happen on C Street, and it's the main place to see.
Well, yeah, and you're right. It's very colorful, very vibrant. Tell me I know that the history of Virginia City, we could probably talk for hours, but give me the Coles Notes version and what people can expect when they come here.
Yeah, a little background about Virginia City is people came here looking for gold, and unbeknownst to them, they discovered silver. For the first part, they were just discarding it. A few of them even paved their campsites and trails around where they were working in literally solid silver before they realized that it was silver. And of course that created the biggest silver boom the United States had seen in its history. So people started coming from all over to kind of chime in. Whether you're a prospector or whether you're looking to work, this was the place to come, the place to be. And as it expanded from 1859 all the way into the 1880s, this was a town that changed what the West was really defined by.
Well, obviously tourism is a big thing. How big is tourism for Virginia City?
Well, of course, it's the mainstay for this town now. After the silver runs out in the late 1890s, that people start going to other locations. Colorado has a big silver strike. Arizona starts having some, and so people abandon this town. Most of the buildings are left to go the natural way of the ghost town and start decaying. A lot of the buildings here are built out of brick and cast iron, and so they are able to survive the winters. They're able to survive the non-upkeep or maintenance. And so a few people come in and see it as a ghost town. A few other things change as we legalize gambling. People start looking at it as a tourist attraction. And so they try different ways of attracting people. And the Bonanza era in 1959 also begins to say, hey, let's go see what this television show is all about. Even though hardly anything was ever filmed here, people came here expecting to see, the television cast and some of the things they saw on TV. And then as we progress into the 70s and the hippies kind of move out of California and looking for other places to be, we have a little insurgence of a new thought or new era. And then we move into more modern area as people are looking for things to do, get back to nature, find the history and the world that's here. Virginia City complements all of those. So whether it's history, whether it's outdoor, whether it's nature, whether it's kind of exploring and seeing things you might have never seen before, this is it.
Well, speaking of exploring, if I'm exploring C Street, what are some of the highlights? What are some of the places I should stop in and experience?
Of course, I highly recommend, because this town was built on mining, take the time to visit a mine. Not too many places in America can you go actually visit a place where they were extracting the silver, and in the old-fashioned way. So there's some mines to be visited, but it's very industrial. Here, you go into where there's timbers that are still holding the place up. You're seeing where they were actually using a pick and a shovel and a candle, and where they would drill and how they would use the hydraulics to be able to make that work. How they would have to hoist what they were digging out into place. And so you get a real feel of what it was like mining in 1870, 1860, and the work that it took to make this nation grow, as Virginia City contributed monetarily tremendously to the nation as a whole.
And, okay, so there's the mine tours. I hear there's a couple of ghost tours you can take here. And, well, obviously there's a lot of museums around, too.
Yeah, of course, start with the museums, some of the famous ones where you get a chance to be able to see the details of what it took to mine in this town. One in particular, the Way It Was Museum, has a complete layout of all the tunnels and all the shafts and all of the adits and everything that makes this place really work. As you go further into town, a few of them have become really recognized for the ghosts that dwell. Ghost hunters got their start here by visiting the Washoe Club, and is still defined as the most haunted place in America. And so as you go in, if you're sensitive to those spirits that may still remain, there's no telling what you're going to find. Other places you go, like Mackey Mansion, they feel they've got a couple of ghosts that are there. Up at Piper's Opera House, there's 2 or 3 ghosts that are believed to be at that location. And so it's interesting because those people that are sensitive to kind of recognize these spirits that remain, kind of describe them the same way. It's as if they're seeing the same thing. So I don't know. It's surprising to me.
Okay, let's talk about just the layout of the city, because we have C Street, the main street, and if you look up, there's another. It's almost looks like it's built on the side of a mountain.
Literally is built on the side of the mountain. Mount Davidson itself is a rather steep mountain. We're following up through a small canyon. It's called 6 Mile Canyon. Works all the way down to the Carson River in Dayton. But as you work your way on the side of this hill, you have quite an elevation. It's almost 2 stories to get from C Street to B Street, 2 stories to get to A Street, and then going the other way, 2 stories down to get to D Street, E Street, etc. And all the way down to St. Mary's Old Hospital, which is now St. Mary's of the Mountain. St. Mary's Art Center, which is another fascinating part about this town, is that whether you're into jewelry shopping, whether you're into history, whether you're exploring old mines, whether you're looking at old railroads, whether you're trying to discover new architecture, there's just about everything you can find in this town. And St. Mary's is one of those to bring in the local artists and give you a vibe and feel of those people that kind of have made this place their home, and some of the skills and arts that are here in town.
Well, speaking of railroad, you touched a thing in my head here to remind about there is a train you can take from Carson City here, is there not?
Yes, there's the Virginia and Truckee Railway, and that goes from Carson City up to Virginia City. It's a day trip up and then a return trip. You get to spend a few hours here in Virginia City, so as you come into the old passenger depot, there you unload, come on up to the main street, be able to grab a bite to eat in one of the saloons or the great restaurants, or do a little shopping, enjoy some great candy. There's some great candy stores that are here. And then ride back to Carson City. So it's a great day trip. There's also the Virginia and Truckee Railroad, which starts in the passenger depot here in Virginia City, travels down to Gold Hill, and then back up to the passenger depot. And it's a 35-minute ride, so if you're looking for the adventure of just riding a train for a little bit, kind of get the feel and the vibe of the clickety-clack, this is the place to come and be able to experience either way. So either eat it all up and spend the day, or spend a little time and just experience it.
Well, speaking of spending a little time, if you were going to spend a day or two, you're not going to find huge resorts here, right?
No huge resort. The biggest one we have is Silverland Resort and Suites, and it's a nice little place to be able to stay, comfortable in town. It sits 2 blocks down from the main thoroughfare on C Street, so it's an easy walk to come up and maybe take a railroad trip and then be able to come back, hit a saloon, and then visit one of the museums. And then, of course, go back and have a nice evening. Come back the next day, go on a mine tour, visit the stamp mill, explore deeper up at the courthouse. They have the old slammer, which is the old justice system. So if you kind of like Alcatraz and some of that back history of what it was on the penal system, that's part of Story County. So you can see what it was like if you were put in jail here. So,
Not sure if I want that experience, but I think that's one of the advantages, though, is that you are so close. You're like a half-hour drive from Reno. You're a half-hour from Carson City. So no matter where people may be, using as a hub, this is a good day trip. Or if you wanted to, stay overnight and explore for a couple of days.
yeah, and it goes both ways. So if you're in Reno or Sparks, or you're down in Carson City, or even down in Minden or Gardnerville, or you stay in some of those unique little towns, to be able to come up here for a day trip and get back down to them, or even Lake Tahoe. We get so many visitors that stay at South Lake or North Lake Tahoe, come over here for the day and go back. And the other way around, staying here in one of our hotels or bed and breakfasts, or some of the old ancient mansions have some really beautiful rooms to stay in. And from here, then you could day trip over to Lake Tahoe, avoid the crowds. It's a kind of a unique way, or go down to Reno to do a little gambling for the evening and come back and get away from the crowds and enjoy these night skies. That's one of the great things, is because we're away from all of the lights of Reno and Sparks, that we can see stars forever up here.
Oh, cool. So yeah, you definitely want a car here. There's no set tours that you tour around like on a bus tour or anything like that, right?
No, there's no bus tours at this point. We do have a small trolley that used to operate here, and we've got hopefully a new owner that's going to be coming on pretty soon. And so you can come to the main street, and that trolley tour will take you out to the cemetery and then down onto the lower streets, show you some like where the stamp mill is and where some of the other mining locations, and be able to get you around town. Another fascinating place is the Fourth Ward School. This is a school that was built after the Great Fire of 1875. The people here felt that the children needed a good education, and they wanted to have the best that you could find in the United States. And so the Fourth Ward School was built on that idea. And still, there's the old schoolroom that you can visit. They also have a number of other museum displays. You talk about how water was brought over to this town, that brought from the High Sierras on a pipeline that was considered the eighth wonder of the world as far as engineering was concerned, to get water to this town. It talks about the printing presses and what education was all about in this western town. People thought, it was the wild, wild west, but it was a pretty heavy Victorian, sophisticated town.
Yeah, well, it sounds there's so much to see and do here. Anything you might want to add I might have missed?
There's a lot to see and do as each individual. So I bring my wife up, she loves to go shopping. I, of course, love the engineering and like the fascination of the mines. And so we can both have a very enjoyable time as I shop a little with her and she sits through the museums with me, and we have a great dinner. And, of course, the saloons themselves. This place had over 100 saloons in its heyday. Now as you come through, the 10 or 13 that operate, they have some fascinating artifacts. You feel like you're just sliding up to that old saloon.
Yeah.
And, hand me on down another beer and have a good time.
It's like going back into time almost.
Yeah, exactly. You can find yourself feeling like maybe I'll step out and, I'll run into Sam Clemens or Dan DeQuail or some of the great people that walk these streets.
Very nice. Todd Tuttle is the Tourism Director of Virginia City Tourism Commission. The website again, visit virginiacitynv.com. That's where you can plan your trip here. It's a pleasure chatting with you, Todd. We could talk all day, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. There's so much here that you can get lost. You can spend a week up here and really not cover it all. But at the same time, you can spend a day and really have a good experience.
And that is our highlights from our Lake Tahoe Loop and stops in Reno, Carson City, and Virginia City, Nevada. As always, we invite you to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/informedtraveler, on Instagram at informedtraveler, or you can follow me on X at informedtraveler. That's also where you can find a number of video posts and photo montages of our visit to Nevada and our highlights of Reno, Carson City, and Virginia City. We want to thank the folks from Travel Nevada for organizing our wonderful trip and all the guests for taking the time to share the stories of Reno, Carson City, and Virginia City. We hope you enjoyed hearing them as well. Thanks for listening. Travel safe and be an informed traveler.